Do I accept myself? I don't not accept myself. Let's see how many negatives I can put into one sentence. I don't not accept who I am not no more. Self-acceptance is a very trendy phrase in the area of personal development and self-help and self-improvement, but there's a real big problem with this idea of self-acceptance. But before I get into that, if you haven't already, make sure you click that subscribe button, or not if you don't accept me. And while you watch this video, if you find yourself liking it, make sure you give it a thumbs up. And I am also giving away something for free in this video. And if you want to know what that is, because you might be really impatient, if you check the description right here down below, you'll see a link there. Just click that link and you'll see what it is. The problem with self-acceptance is really the word that we're putting in front of it, self-acceptance. The word self in front of it implies that you may accept while you exclude yourself. And that really doesn't make any sense if we're talking about acceptance. It's like you're basically saying acceptance is conditional, and it's implied that it can be conditional when you put the word self in front of it, self-acceptance. Why don't we just say acceptance? And when we say acceptance, that includes everything, because that's what acceptance is. Acceptance is the acceptance of pretty much everything, especially when we think about things that we can't change. This is where acceptance is really, really powerful. When something bad happens to us and there's just nothing we can do about it at this moment, maybe there was something we could have done about it. That might be where guilt and regret comes from. But if we really think about it, okay, well, I can't go back and change the past, and this thing happened, and I just have to accept it. And a lot of times people say, well, doesn't that prevent you from taking action? No, not really. You can use it for that. You can use it as an excuse to not take action. You can say, well, I just accept things as they are, when there really is something that you can do about it. That's not going to help you either. But in order to really do something, we first have to accept what has happened in order to actually do it. If we ignore what happens, then there's no call to action. We have to accept the things that we don't like in order to take some action to improve it. I want to go in a bit of a different direction with this idea of acceptance and self-acceptance. Lots of people only accept themselves on the basis of the opinions of others. Isn't that a strange thing that we do? So we have to live our own lives. We have to live in our bodies and be with ourselves 24/7. Yet we see people, and sometimes it's people we don't even know, and we're more concerned about whether they accept us before we will allow ourselves to accept ourselves. I know I'm using a lot of sort of reflexive terminology here, but I don't really know any other way to explain it. And if you think about that for a moment, we're depending on others to accept us before we can accept ourselves. That's just crazy. But a lot of us do that. And I did this for a long time until I realized what it was that I was doing. And you might be doing it too, and I'm not calling you crazy if you do. That's actually more normal. That's how most people function. They look to others to accept them before they accept themselves. Check in for a moment to see if you are in fact doing that. And it's really amazing when you think about it, because when we are in public and we think about maybe going up to a stranger and starting a conversation, and how hard that can be, because we're worried about how that person might think of us. And this is a stranger, this is someone we don't even know, and we're concerned about what they're going to think of us. Or if I do this, if I say this, and it might even be people who you care about because you don't even know who they are, but we're so concerned about whether or not people accept us. And then of course, it's also the case with people, our social circles, or maybe even our professional circles, that we want them to accept us. And we're sort of holding out on ourselves. We're holding out acceptance for ourselves, and we're waiting for other people to give us that permission. So if you are doing that, just know that it is a losing strategy. You will never be happy. You will always be insecure. You will always be anxious about this. Why? Because you cannot control what other people think. You cannot control what other people judge you by, or whether or not they accept you. So if you're always waiting for their acceptance of you before you can accept yourself, you will wait forever. And everybody's different. You're going to have one person who might accept you, another person who doesn't. Do you have to keep modifying and changing yourself until everyone in the entire world accepts you? It's never going to happen. You would turn into some sort of weird monster that is pure contradiction. But a lot of us are trying to do this, where we feel ourselves being pulled in all these different directions, and we actually try to make this happen. We try to please everyone. We try to make everyone accept us because we feel like if we can make everyone accept us, then we're acceptable, and then I can finally accept myself. It's never going to happen. So let that go, and let's try a different strategy. What self-acceptance really is a duality. Another way of saying it, it's an ambiguity. It's sort of like, well, you either accept yourself or you don't accept yourself. And if you're teetering between these two, you're always going to be in some sort of turmoil, some sort of conflict. And so we want to completely step out of this ambiguity. We want to step out of this duality. There is not one part of you that can then decide when we accept the other part of you or the totality of you. If you think about it like that, it's like what you're saying is self-acceptance. Then there's a part of me that either decides whether or not we accept the other part or the totality of who I am. And if you really start trying to think about it this way, it really doesn't make any sense. So step out of this duality. And one way that you can do that is just by removing the self. And we just say acceptance. And this right away should make it easier for you to accept. So you're not just accepting yourself, you're just accepting. You're accepting. There's no one part of you that accepts or doesn't accept, and then one part of you that's trying to be accepted by this other part of you. We're stepping out of that. We're accepting. There's just acceptance or there's not acceptance. What do you want? Do you want acceptance? Then accept. What you also probably realize is that there are parts of you that you can't change. Those are just parts of you that you're born with. And probably what comes to mind more than anything is probably physical parts of you that maybe you wish you were more attractive. And there are some things that we can do to make ourselves more attractive, but then at a certain point, you are who you are. So are you better off not accepting that and accepting yourself in that way, or are you better off accepting? I assure you, you're better off accepting. When it comes to changing the parts of you that you don't accept, you first have to accept them in order to change them. You first have to acknowledge a problem before you can start solving it. Start with acceptance rather than, oh, I will accept this part of me when I can do whatever it is that you want to do that you feel like this part is holding you back from. Start from a place of acceptance. You will be so much better at figuring it out or improving yourself in the ways that you want to improve yourself if you start off with acceptance. So what would it be like to just 100% accept who you are? Don't put self in front of it, just pure acceptance. What would that be like? It's pretty amazing if you think about it. If you just fully accept yourself, there's a huge relief that comes over you. It's really nice to just feel accepted. And what's it like when you become an accepting person and you accept other people, you don't judge them? It doesn't mean you have to trust them. It doesn't mean that you have to like them, but you accept them. You accept that there are people in the world you maybe just don't get along with. Their personality type, it's not what you like, but you accept them. You accept that that's how it is. Maybe there are things in the world that you don't like, or there are things about your life that you don't like. Doesn't mean that you can't accept it. You can accept it and feel what it's like when you do accept it. It changes things. It gives you more space. It gives you more energy. You're not so locked down. You're not so limited. Start with acceptance. What would it be like to be an accepting person? There's a really great Zen saying that goes, if you have a problem and you can do something about it, then you don't have a problem. If you have a problem and you can't do anything about it, then you don't have a problem. What is that basically saying? It's saying, well, the things that you can change, that you want to change them. The things that you can't change, accept them. What else can you do? You can, the best that you can do is just to let it go. So what's it like to become an accepting person? What's it like to not judge and just accept? And when you play the judgment game, it's the same thing with the acceptance, self-acceptance, or I don't accept or I do accept myself duality. When you judge others, you can't not play that game as well. When you judge others, your unconscious realizes you're a person too, and so you will naturally judge yourself as well. So when you play the game of judgment, you will judge others, and then you will feel judged by others, and you will be limited by both. But you can let that go and become an accepting person and not judge. And the less you judge others, naturally, the less you will judge yourself. The less you judge yourself, the less you will judge others. Then you're out of the duality. You're now in a relationship with the world around you, with yourself, and with other people in a way that is not judgmental, that is accepting, which makes you an accepting person, not a self-accepting person, just an accepting person. If you want to learn more about how to become an accepting person or taking any quality that you would like to build into your identity, a great place to start is this assessment that you will find right down here in the description of this video. Just go there, click that link, and you can do this free assessment and get the results from it by asking a few questions and learning more about yourself and where would be a good place to get started on your journey of transformation. If you like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, make sure you click that subscribe button and the bell so you'll be notified when I put new videos out, which is usually Wednesdays and Saturdays. And last but not least, if you can think of a friend or a family member who would benefit from this video, make sure you share it with them. Take care.